Right, hi there guys, this is Scapegoat Stephen. I'm going to do a quick look at the Trollbloods Forces of Hordes book today. Trollbloods are the army that I've always wanted to collect but never got round to it. I just love the aesthetic of some of the models. There's a lot of Trollbloods players actually at the moment in our meta, so it's not something that I'm personally looking into getting into very soon, but perhaps as a little bit of a vanity project or something later on, it might be something that I look into. So we'll start, as always, you've got the inside cover, all the faction symbols on. Very nice. Contents, very brief faction background and their play style. For anyone who's not aware, basically the Trollkin, I liken them to sort of the good guys of Hordes. They're basically fighting against oppressive other nations and groups, just trying to basically take back land that is ritually and ancestrally theirs, looking to protect their own. Generally speaking, they seem like quite good guys, although some of them go about their business in quite a nasty way. So you got the start, again, bit of fluff, lovely bit of artwork of one of the much maligned casters, Gunbjorn. More fluff, nice bit of artwork there of the bomber. Let's talking here about basically how the creels are set out, and then an explanation of the words kith, creel and kin. So we've got a bit about talking about how the creels have become united under Madrak Ironhide. Some different colour schemes or patterns you want on your tartan, depending on which sort of warcast you're using, perhaps, if that's something you want to do. Just a quick breakdown of sort of one of the armies. Got into the theme forces. It's got Prime Grim, Prime Gristle, Prime Doomshaper, Epic Doomshaper, Gunbjorn, Borka Kegslayer, Madrak or Prime Madrak, Epic Madrak and Kalandra. So we get into the Warlock section. It's basically just quick bit of fluff on the rune stones and scrolls and just how they work. Nice bit of artwork there for Doomshaper and Mulg. So then to the first caster, Grim Angus. Lovely bit of artwork. This is one of the casters that quite a lot of people like, and he still sees quite a lot of play from my understanding. Although again, actually strangely enough, I think only one person in our meta actually owns him. He's got a very good feat. Basically, enemy models suffer -3 defense, and if they begin their activation in his 12-inch control area, they cannot make special attacks, in addition to suffering -3 speed. So that's quite tasty as far as bonus abilities go. In addition to that, he's got Pathfinder, Tough, Takedown on his 13-inch gun. He also, when he shoots people with it, it means that models in your battle group gain +2 inches of movement when charging the model damaged by the weapon. So again, quite tasty, and it's a magical weapon should you need to get rid of those pesky incorporeal enemies from a decent distance away. He's also got an alternate weapon, because you can only use one of them a turn, which is basically just a knockdown gun. Again, reasonably solid if you're getting that close to your opponent and you need to get him on the floor and take one of his things out. He's only got 4 spells. You've got Cross Country, which is a target friendly faction model unit gains Pathfinder and Hunter. Quite useful. It's an upkeep spell as well. You also got Lock the Target. A model damaged by Lock the Target cannot run, charge or be placed for 1 round. Quite useful against, say, something like Circle, who are all about the movement tricks. You've got Marked for Death, which means the target enemy model unit suffers -2 defense and loses incorporeal and stealth for a round. And oh no, in fact it's an upkeep, so just loses it. And it cannot gain those abilities while affected by Mark for Death. It is only range 8 though, so I don't know. Grim has True Sight, which I didn't mention, which means he ignores concealment, cover, and camouflage. Concealment, camouflage, and stealth, not cover. That's the important one. So he can get marked for death on another stealth unit. However, I'm not 100% sure how well that would work, because it means he's getting quite close to that stealth unit, and if it's something like Bane Thralls, they're going to eat him for breakfast. So you've got Return Fire. When a target friendly faction model is targeted by an enemy range attack After the attack is resolved, the affected model can make one normal, melee or ranged attack, then return fire expires. Useful, it's only cost 1, so you can potentially spam it out on loads if you've got a heavy shooting army. So on to Trollbloods. She has quite an interesting feat actually. I think it works quite well for if you're running like an infantry sort of heavy. Basically it means she can use all 3 of her fell calls at the same time, which basically means while in this model's command range, enemy model's units cannot give or receive orders and cannot cast spells. Target friendly non-warlock faction model units, they gain fearless and can make 1 additional melee attack during their activations, and target non-friendly faction model units can make a full advance at the end of this turn after all friendly models have ended their activations. So yeah, very very good. Actually surprisingly a very early feat actually. You probably want to be doing that on turn 1, maybe even turn 2, just to get up the board. She's got critical smite and she's got a spray 8 weapon. She's only got 3 spells, one of which being Rift, another Hallowed Avenger, and Calamity. Calamity is probably the better one. Its friendly models gain +2 to attack and damage rolls against target enemy model unit, so quite useful. Lovely artwork there. Prime Doomshaper, he's generally I think the guy that you see more often out of trolls. I know I'm pretty sure at least every one of our troll players has him. I think maybe the one who owns Gunbjorn oddly enough doesn't have him. He is one of the better casters in the book. For instance, his feat, an enemy model suffers d6 damage points for each focus or fury they spend whilst in Doomshaper's control area for a round. And he's got 14-inch control area. It also means if someone is killed due to a result of that damage when casting a spell or using an animus, the spell or animus does not take effect. Quite useful. He's tough, as are all trolls. He's got something called Goad, which basically means you can force a warbeast to move 2 inches after it destroys 1 or more enemy models. Quite useful, bit of extra threat range. He's got great power, which means he can upkeep 1 spell for free each turn. He's also got the Scroll of the Will of Balasar. The model can use the ability once per game when the warbeast frenzies in its control area. When the Scroll of the Will of Balasar is used, choose the frenzy target of the warbeast. Quite useful if you need to. He's got Banishing Ward, Fortune, Purification, Rampager and Stranglehold. So a very good spell selection as well. Very nice. Lovely bit of artwork again. You've got his epic version, whose feat means that friendly faction warbeasts and him and his battle group gain +3 speeding and charge, make slam, trample or power attacks without being forced. Quite useful. Again, nice for a turn of particularly high damage output. He can cast a Dire Troll. This is this attuned spirit rule. Dire Troll's Animus without spending Fury once per turn. Quite useful. He's still got Goad. He's also got Hyper Regeneration, so he heals automatically D3 every turn. He's got powerful attack on his melee weapon. And he's got Agitation, Primal Shock, Refuge, Sunder Spirit, Wild Aggression. Wild Aggression is an amazing spell. Basically means you can run or charge or slam or trample for free and gives you boosted melee attack rolls. Is he perhaps potentially the guy you want to be running Mountain King with? If you're into running the Mountain King, we'll look at the Mountain King himself in a later book, in a later review when we get to the Gargantuans book. You got Gunbjorn. This guy is a much, as I said earlier, a lot of people wail on him and say he's not very good. One particular player in our local meta has been doing very, very well with him. I think he creates a very different style of list, because normally when you play against trolls, a lot of people tend to brick up and basically create like a large central formation that just stomps across the table towards you with stupid high armour. Gunbjorn creates a shooting list. He can't necessarily outshoot some armies, although actually I've had trouble against him with my Signar purely because of the amount of critical devastations he has. So he can knock people flying. The guys with the spears can knock the light war beasts, can knock people flying. It's all over everywhere, and he's got snipe as a spell. He's got guided fire. He's got explosive air, and he's got rock wall, and his feat gives everyone cover for a turn. Not brilliant. He doesn't have the huge amount of synergy that a lot of the other troll warlocks have. However, I actually think he's a bit of a dark horse of the book. Madrak Ironhide, or Prime Madrak, he's the guy that comes in the battle box. again, I think he's much. A lot of people say, "Oh no, he's terrible, terrible," but I think he suffers a little from being in the battle box where you've got 2 ranged war beasts, and he's very much a melee support caster. He himself has got various abilities. Basically, his feat gives overtake. He can throw his axe twice at someone, and it is power and strength 15, so that's quite a nice throwing weapon. He's got a talisman, which means he can't be charged in his front arc, and war beasts can only make that full advance towards him. He's also got a magical scroll that basically means he can just ignore all damage from 1 attack for a turn. He can make himself and things around him immune to knockdown. He's got carnage and stranglehold. He's only got 5 fury though, which I think is his biggest downside. And here's the epic version. I've never ever seen anyone field him. I don't know if that's just because, again, our meta is, it's only been taking off really in the last year. What I'll have to do is I'll have to perhaps have a chat with someone I know about trolls and see if a more experienced guy, see if he knows quite where the 2 Madrak Ironhides sit in the meta at the moment. But again, I think he's basically, he's got Warpath, quite a good spell. Got Killing Ground, Blood Fury. He looks on paper, he looks like he could be quite good, but again, he needs to be so far up that I think obviously that could cause issues, potentially with his survivability. And basically, his feat gives everyone an extra melee attack or ranged attack. This is the guy that I potentially want to run an army with, Borka Kegslayer. Again, he's only got like Fury 5, but he's got Iron Flesh as a spell. He's also got Mosh Pit. Mosh Pit basically gives everything knockdown. Quite funny. And he's got Wind Wall, so he can basically make himself kind of immune to shooting. And his feat is friendly faction models beginning a charge, slam, power attack, or trample power attack in Kickslayer's control area gain plus 2 inch movement. War Beast in his battle group beginning their activation, his control area can make power attacks without being forced, and roll an additional die on power attack damage rolls and collateral damage rolls. So quite tasty. He's immune to cold. He's unyielding. When a model is damaged by his melee attack, they cannot cast spells, upkeep spells, or use an animus for 1 round. So quite nice. I just like him because I like the idea of his basically his alternate theme list. Because it's very bricky, but I think it looks quite fun. And then you've got your little pig who carries a keg for him. Basically, he can give Borka 2 extra fury for a turn, but basically inflicts him with the stumbling drunk ability. Again, it's all part of how Borka works in the fluff as well. And then you've got Calandra Truthsayer. I look at her, and I looked at her a couple of times and thought actually she looks quite interesting. She seems to be she plays very differently, I think, to how a lot of the other trollcasters work. She's much more supporty and a little less tanky. However, I think personally she actually looks like she could have quite a large, a decent selection of abilities between her spells and her feat. And again, I'd be interested to see someone actually get some decent playtime with her and see what they have to say about her. So now we're on to the War Beasts. We've got a little bit about troll armament, which usually is either stolen Signaran stuff or basically like crude weapons they've manufactured for the trolls anyway. It's a nice bit of art there of a dire troll blitzer. So the Pyre Troll, that to be honest I see quite often. Quite a few people have got this, mostly because he has an AoE 3 range 8 power 12 attack, quite useful. He's got continuous fire, he's immune to fire himself, he can regenerate, and he's got an animus that gives a buff. Gives you +2 to melee damage rolls, and immunity fire, and critical fire actually. So, quite nice just for that extra bonus damage when you're going in. Slag Troll, I think if anyone ran specialists, I think the Slag Troll would potentially see quite a lot of use against War Machine armies, just because it has bonuses against non-living models actually. So yeah, mostly against War Machine. again, he's got a plus. Basically, he's got acidic touch, which is the same as flaming fist. It gives you the +2 to melee attack and damage rolls. You got the swamp troll, which again I like the model of actually, and it's good for dragging things. But of course, because it's only got a medium base, you're not going to be dragging any enemy heavies in. And you do need to still do a bit of damage, I believe, to drag, and it is only a power 10. So again, I like the idea of it. I've only seen one person who owns one, so I'm not entirely 100% sure on how he gels with a lot of the other synergies. The Trollaxer, it's a light melee beat stick. It's got its power strength 14 with a Thresher and reach. It's got Rush as an animus. Rush being probably a very important animus in Trolls, I would imagine, if you're going for perhaps a turn of very fast attacking. It's got the Bouncer, which I believe has Shield Guard, which I think again is one of its bigger draws. It's got quite high armor. It's like armor 19 for a light, so it's quite nice. It can basically knock enemy models away from it if they damage it, which means they're only going to get their charge attack. So it's good for denial, perhaps. Impalers, you get 2 of these in the starter box. They actually come with Fast Strike, which grants Snipe. It's an animus that grants Snipe. Again, what I wouldn't love for that animus in my main Hordes faction circle. They're quite nice. They've got critical smite, which can you slam people out of zones and stuff. They're alright. They're very nice in the starter box, I think, for their points. You've got the Winter Troll. Basically, you can make things immune to cold and then make them stationary if they come near you for a turn. So as long as they don't kill you in one turn, if they stand next to you, they become stationary. So again, quite nice. It's got an 8-inch spray, power 12, suffering a bit at Rat 4, but again, I think they're actually quite nice. You've got the Blitzer. That's basically got a D3 slugger. You can make melee and shooting attacks in its turn, because it's got the Virtuoso rule. It's got snacking. It's got gunfighters that can actually shoot its melee target as well. I quite like that. For 9 points, I think that's quite a nice beast. It's power strength 15 base. You've got the Bomber, which has a rate of fire 2 AoE 4, power 16 gun. So I think that's quite nice. Again, it's got snacking. I think if you can get Fast Strike on this and make it range 12, that's quite good for clearing out infantry. And power 16 itself will take out a chunk off a Warjack or a Warbeast. Got the Dire Troll Mauler, which is power strength 16 with 2 attacks, 5 Fury, quite nice, and Rage Animus, +3 strength. And it's not a self range either, it's a range 6. So that will cause some horrific wrecking if it can get its Animus on, say, someone like Morg, that we'll come to in a bit. Earthborn Dire Troll, again, I think this is one of the better beasts. It's hefty points cost at 10. However, it can change the power of its weapons to match the power of the enemy model in base contact with it, I believe. Bear in mind, its weapons are only power 3, and its strength is 12, so it can get up to hideous bonuses. It's also got something called Elemental Communion. So while it's within 2 inches of deep or shallow water, it gains +2 defense. 2 inches of an obstacle or obstruction, it gains +2 armor. And if it begins its activation within 2 inches of rough terrain, it gains +2 speed. It also has Pathfinder, and its Animus can give out Elemental Communion to other trolls. What is not to love? There's quite a bit of synergy with someone like Gumbjorn's Rock Wall, because then you're getting that +2 armor. There's also a solo that can generate a Rock Wall a turn, so quite useful. Its base power strength 15, 18 perhaps if you whack that Animus on it from the Mauler. And that's not excluding the power of the weapon that you're going to be attacking the enemy with. And let's not forget, that is an awesome bit of artwork. The model is actually posed very similar. Here he is. This is Morg that we were talking about earlier. He's got an affinity with Doomshaper. He's also got Protective Fit, Regeneration. He's relentless. He's got snacking. He's got critical smite on his club. He's power and strength 19 with that club. Fury 5. So imagine if you get that +3 strength on him, he's going to be power and strength 22 with that club. That is pretty tasty. That could make quite a mess out of someone. His Animus as well should be said. Very good. Not so good on him, but very good if cast from your Warcaster. Enemy models in this model's command range, enemy animi within this model's command range expire, and enemy models cannot cast spells, and enemy war beasts lose their Animus while in this model's command range for 2. Very good for shutting down important animi or preventing a caster from casting spells. Bit about the units. The Atara Trollkin champion, and basically how the regeneration works and how pigs and whelps fit into the society. You've got the Creole warriors with their standard and piper. Again, this is your generic 4/6 unit. However, they do have a couple of different prayers. They can either get +2 movement or +2 to attack and damage rolls. Quite tasty. The standard grants them tough, and the piper grants the unit commander +3 command range, so the unit can spread out a bit more. They've got combined melee attack and tough. Quite nice for your standard 3/6 unit. They've got a weapon attachment you can take up to 3 of, and basically they can slam bigger models than themselves, which can have its uses. Clearing things out of zones perhaps, that sort of thing. I'm not 100% sold on these guys. The unit themselves quite good, again your cheap blocking unit. Not so sold on them. There might be something that I'm missing about them perhaps. Pig burrowers, apparent strength 14 gun that they can use in melee due to point blank. Quite nice. The only thing I think they're missing is their Mat and Rat 4. They are again a 4/6 unit, and they have a tunnelling order, which basically means they can go underground for a turn and be ignored, or can not be taking any damage. Krillstone Bearer and Stone Scribes. This you will find a lot of in a standard troll brick list, because it creates an aura that ups everything's armour by 2, which is interesting to try and then crack through, because a lot of the you can see that behind a line perhaps of heavies or heavies and lights, to create essentially an armour skew that just stomps up the board and murders everything in its way. It's got an attachment that grants a couple of other abilities. You've got Bushwhackers. Basically they're a cheapish unit with combined range attack is basically what I can see you using them for, using them as a flanking force to pick off enemy solos or small units perhaps, something like that. Thumper guns, I've only seen them in Gunbjorn's theme force, to be honest. They do, however, they can slam things, which I suppose is quite tasty, and they have got range 14. One of the major issues being that they're going to be moving turn 1 before they can shoot, but then obviously War Machine Hordes, a lot of stuff happens like that. I think good for clearing zones perhaps. They are literally good for targeting enemies, war beasts or warjacks. They're not brilliant against infantry because there's no AoE effect on them. You've got Trollkin champions. They get +2 armour if they're in base-to-base contact with each other for armour 18. They have 2 weapons and they have Weapon Master and Tough. 6/10 between 3 and 5 of them. 8 damage each. Quite nasty. They can kick out the damage, providing they can get there. And then you've got the character UA for them, Skaldy Bonehammer. He personally has Overcharge and actually grants them Overtake and Relentless Charge. So he's pretty much worth it for those 3 extra points to give these guys Pathfinder and Overtake. And he can countercharge anything that comes into the unit. Quite nice. This is the unit that appeals to me most about Trollbloods, to be honest, which are the Fenblades and the Fenblade Officer and Drummer. They're basically like Highland warriors with giant 2-handed swords. I love the look of them, and I love just how they seem to work. They don't take damage or effects from impact hits or collateral. They have Vengeance, they have Reach at Power and Strength 12. The officer has a mini feat of No Quarter, which basically means once per game they gain Fearless, Pathfinder and Terror, and they gain +2 movement. Quite nice. He also gives them set defense, and yeah, and instep as well from the drummer. So again, they can spread out a bit more. I quite like them. I can see them. They do quite well with that Borka idea I was saying about earlier. Trollkin Long Riders, I want to see someone field them, because to be honest at the moment I have absolutely no idea how they work, other than just being insanely nasty and tough and quite fast for trolls. None of our troll players own them, so I'm afraid I don't really know much more about them, but I assume they're basically going to be quite good as a flanking force, perhaps. And they are power and strength 12 with brutal charge, so I could see them being reasonable for taking a chunk out of an enemy unit, or indeed maybe out of a war beast. Rune Shapers, 4-point unit. You tend to find them quite a lot because Prime Doom Shaper has a theme force called Runes of War, which these guys tend to crop up in. I think you need like 4 units of them. Bear in mind they're normally field allowance 2. They're steady, so you can't knock them down. They're defense 12, armor 15, 5 damage each. They've got a knockdown attack, which is a special attack. They've also got a range 8 AoE, power 14 magic attack, which knocks people down on a critical hit. So again, I think they're quite nice for getting in the way and causing trouble. Scattergunners, I will come back to them because one of the later books actually has a UA for this unit. I think as the standard unit as they are, with spray 8s, power 12s, they're not brilliant. They are only 5/8 cost wise. The UA, however, that, like I said, we'll come back to in a later book, does make them, I believe, worth it. At the moment, though, as they are in this book, I've never seen anyone field them. Trollkin Scouts, again, I quite like the look of these guys. Their models are actually quite nice. They've got Assault, they've got Gang, they've got Hunter, they've got Prowl, they've got Advanced Deployment. You know, I've seen them used to quite reasonable effect as well, by one of our troll players. Overall, they provide something that trolls don't necessarily have, which is like an advanced deployment unit that is actually still reasonably durable. If you can get them into a forest or something, and then with Prowl activating, they're going to be looking at, you know, decent survivability. Sluggers, again, a unit I've only seen one person field, and that is with Gumbjorn, because you put snipe on these guys. So they walk or run turn 1. You whack snipe on them, they become range 14. They sacrifice their movement to gain +2 rat, so they become equivalent rat 7, and they fire D3 range 14 power 13 shots each then. So I actually think they're quite a nice threat against light war beasts or tanky infantry units. Definitely cause some trouble. When I've seen them be fielded, they tend to surprise people because most people don't know what they are. So it's interesting to see they've actually done reasonably well in our meta. They haven't yet come across like a stealth unit, I don't think, so perhaps that might cause some issues for them at a later date. The Fellcaller hero, very good. He himself is a weapon master, and he's got a range of buffs that he can drop on various troll units around him. 3 points, you can take 2 of him. Stone Scribe Chronicler, he can storytell. Basically, he's got 3 abilities that he can drop out onto various units or war beasts or whatever, all of which are actually quite good. You can get +2 to melee attack and damage rolls. You can get knockdown on a melee weapon, or you can get feign death and concealment, so quite nice. Troll Whelps, this is the troll's way of healing and fury management. Basically, when you get hit, these guys don't start on the board. When you hit an enemy troll, you can spawn the whelp behind the troll, and then the troll can eat them to either lose fury or gain gain health. They also cause problems for the enemy nearby with the annoyance rule. Enemy models within 1 inch suffer -1 to attack rolls. Not massive, but you know, any buff is a buff. Trollkin Champion Hero gives Tactician to friendly Trollkin champions. He's a weapon master with Reach and Thresher, and Relentless Charge himself, and Retaliatory Strike. So if you don't kill him in melee, he'll hit you back and it'll hurt. I'm not sure if he's with the Tactician. I'm not sure if Tactician's particularly good for the Trollkin champions because they're such a small unit anyway, or they're being medium base, they could prove to get in their own way. So again, I haven't seen him fielded. I'd like to see if he's required really for the unit. But he himself, to be honest, with the Thresher Weapon Master attack, he's going to be hitting power and strength 19 without a charge. So he himself can thresh through a unit of infantry, I would imagine, especially given he's mat 8. You've got the Trollkin Rune Bearer, which is actually an attachment for a warlock. Again, I haven't seen anyone field him, but I've heard a couple of people talk about getting hold of one of him, because he's got 2 abilities. Basically, he can reduce the cost of one spell that his Warcaster casts by 1 once per turn. He can also once per game cast a spell that costs 3 or less. It's only 2 points. I think he's quite useful. And to be honest, I'm surprised he's not a bit like the Squire for Signar, you know, like a virtual in every army. Trollkin Skinner, he has a Weapon Master with Dismember. So he's Power Strength 8, rolling 5 dice if he charges a living War Beast. I think that's reasonably tasty. You know, you're looking at then what, 14, 20, somewhere in the region of power 25 on the damage, so can be quite nice. Again, he's also got Prowl and Hunter, and he actually gets +4 defense against War Beasts, so he must defense 18, quite nice. You've got a Long Rider character. Again, as I said earlier, I don't know a huge amount about Long Riders. However, I do know he gives them Follow Up and Line Breaker. So basically get an additional die on impact damage rolls, and if you knock an enemy, if you slam a model, you can follow it. So I don't know, if you're going to take Long Riders, I don't see why you wouldn't take him as well. Janissa Stonetide, this is the one I talked about earlier. You usually find in like a Steamroller format she will be in one of the lists. She's got Rune Shapers, she's got Leadership Rune Shapers, which gives them Force Lock, which she also has, which means enemy models in this model's melee range cannot advance except the change facing. Quite nice to get in there and block. She's got Rock Hammer, which is that range 8, AoE 3, power 14, critical kill knockdown, that I talked about earlier with the Rune Shapers. She has a Power Strength 9 armor piercing weapon. She can't be knocked down herself. She has something called Tectonic Shift, so to any models currently within 3 inches of this model, I push 3 inches towards a chosen table edge. Quite nice. Again, get enemies out of zones, that sort of thing, quite tasty. And then, or she's got the ability to place a wall template. It's always quite useful. So now we've passed all the army, we're into the sort of the model painting gallery. There's that Borka model, again, that I said I quite liked. How to paint sort of the skin tones, some different types of skin tones, Pyre, Earthborn and Winter, weathered stone effects, metal, the furs and how to blend them, which is quite nice, how to paint tartan. And then we're into the gallery itself, so you've got the Warlocks, so covering these 2 pages, Krill Stones, Bushwhackers, some of the models for the War Beasts, and there's the Krill Warrior unit, the Dire Troll Mauler Extreme, quite a nice model, the Scattergunners, Mulg, very good, Mauler, very good, and there's the Whelps. You buy them as a set for like 1 or 2 points. Thumper Crews, Fen Blades, Burrowers, Rune Shapers, very nice models. Yep, so that is the end of my quick look and rundown of the Trollbloods book, and we'll be back with another Forces of Hordes book very soon. So this is Stephen signing off.